I wanted to talk a little bit about your talk beyond failing fast. I
Yeah.
thought it was terrific. I love how you said that fail fast is a great concept, but it's not an end in itself, and that it's almost become a cult. And
Yeah.
I really agree with you. I think that there's this tendency in software engineering where these cults just kind of form
Yeah.
and they get so much momentum behind it that no one questions around the edges to
Yep.
be like, okay,
Yep.
wait a second, is this fully great
Yeah.
advice, or are there
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
downsides to just extrapolating this advice to our business?
Yep.
Um, and can you tell me when you first came across this revelation? What triggered that?
In the Web 2.0 age, so this was early 2000s, around 2005 or 2006. They started talking about, okay, what you can do is just throw stuff out there and iterate really, 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 really fast. And, having been at Apple for a long time, it just felt kind of superficial, because I'd been at a place where it was all about understanding customers really, really deeply so you could think on their behalf. And then it was okay to go iterate and stuff like that because you understood customers really, really deeply. But the idea you could just throw things out there at random and iterate your way to something good felt to me like a perversion of the idea. It was kind of back to there's that old saying, if you had an infinite number of monkeys and you gave them an infinite number of typewriters, eventually they would write Shakespeare. Um, and that's true only if you actually have a truly infinite number of monkeys. Um, if you have anything less than infinite, the odds of having them randomly write Shakespeare are extremely low. And yet you saw companies like Google basically trying to implement the infinite number of monkeys strategy, right? There was a time when they were hoovering up every promising computer science graduate that they could find, and they just threw them at all sorts of different projects. None of those projects ever turned into really big businesses. If you look at all the things Google tried, I mean, it's still today is mostly operating off of its search business, which is why it's so incredibly vulnerable to ChatGPT.
Yes.
Um, so so the whole idea right from the start felt like, yes, I like the idea of getting rapid feedback from customers by being able to ship. That's absolutely great. But that doesn't get you off the hook for doing your absolute best to try to understand them,
Yes.
so that you can have better judgment. You experiment in a very directed way, informed by all that you've learned about customers. Now, the problem was completely true. Traditional market research was way too slow. You go back to 2006, we were still doing market research by going to focus groups and flying to focus groups in the Midwest and eating cold stale pizza in St. Louis while you're watching people through a one-way mirror. And surveys were, oh, you go hire a company that's going to do a telephone survey 2.5 months from now, and they'll add your questions to it. And in 3.5 months, you get some answers, which by then are out of date because the market's been changing. So the market research could not keep up with the pace of development.
Yeah.
So okay, understood. Failing fast as a just as a label to say we're going to run market experiments and learn from them quickly. That's okay. It's just the problem was the label was just the wrong wording. Because it put the emphasis on failure as opposed to, if we'd said get the fastest feedback you can from the market, then everybody would have been set up to say when you get to about 2015 or 16 and you start to have things like user testing, and it's like, well, wait a minute, we can now get feedback without shipping. We can do it even faster. I can do it in 2 hours. I don't have to burn some sprints in order to throw something in the marketplace. If we'd been thinking in terms of this is all about getting rapid feedback, it would have naturally turned to, oh wait, market research caught up. Okay, that's great. Let's start doing this newfangled research and we can be even smarter. We can go even faster. And conceptually, that idea has been incredibly hard. I can tell you because I've been trying to do it. I've been at user testing for 10 years now. And I went to it because I like this idea of getting ultra fast feedback. It's been super hard to sell to product management teams. And like when I said at the in my talk that at best the initial guesses made by product managers are right only about a third of the time.
Hmm.
People gasp when they see that number, um, and yet it's been intensely obvious to the folks who studied decision making in the last 5 years that this was going on. You can see the A/B testing community when they really looked at the numbers, and they're totally number heads, so they've looked at it really thoroughly. They've documented this over and over and over again, and people just aren't listening because it doesn't fit in their mental paradigm of what their jobs are.
Hmm. Well, obviously, since user testing is your company has been around for a while, you've had a lot of customers, right?
Yeah.
Your website
Yep.
says like 3,000.
That's 3,000 enterprise customers.
Mm.
Back when the company was selling individual tests, we had 20 or 30,000 customers because there were a ton of small startups using us. So yeah, it's been in its category, it's been the leading vendor.
Okay.
The idea that you can get feedback in a couple of hours is not understood by most of the like PM types that I talk to. They assume that it takes several days, and they assume that you have to watch hours and hours of video before you can figure out what the results are. Whereas
Yeah.
in fact, we made it pretty freaking easy to do it, especially with templates and stuff. And now that we got AI, AI will watch the videos for you and summarize them.
Hmm.
It sounds like we're relying on it to do magic, but AI is extremely good at summarizing stuff, a
Okay.
clearly defined data set. And so turning it loose on 10 video transcripts and saying, what do you hear in these? It's great at doing that. And then you can just watch a few clips.
Yeah.
So, turnaround time of a few hours within a sprint.
This slide that you had on avoidable rework consuming 40 to
Yes.
50% of product
Yep.
development budgets.
Rich Mironov, really good guy. Well worth checking out his website.
Mhm.
And what he is he is an executive consultant for very senior product executives, so CPOs and stuff like that. And he's a full-time counselor to them about their problems and how to deal with the rest of the C-suite. And I just found one time this post that he had done about what he called product waste. And it was all about all of the rework that we have to do as product teams because companies didn't do a good job on the problem discovery phase.
Hmm.
Um, Either an exec came in and just said, oh, we should do this, or one of our biggest customers demanded it, even though we know nobody else is going to want it, or we just came up with a religious view about what we needed to do, and we decided that we would go after it without necessarily having the right evidence about it. So his issue is that discovery takes a lot of time, and so companies usually don't take the time to do the discovery right.
Mhm.
And he's trying to push on, no, stop and do the discovery right, because you're wasting on average 50% of more or more of your engineering spend on stuff that you end up having to redo. And furthermore, if you have the ideology of failing fast, you think that's supposed to happen. We're supposed to fail. And so it's okay that we do all that rework. It wastes money. You end up missing market opportunities, and it also burns out the engineering team
Mhm.
because engineers hate having to go back and redo things. It ends up eroding the credibility of the product managers because they're asking the engineers to go back and rework stuff. So it's
Yeah,
it's really a pretty sick situation when you think about it.
it is.
And they do it because they don't understand that there's an alternative.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we have a very common view of this problem, and I've kind of um, shaped our engineering culture to solve it from a different direction than you, which is very interesting because I
I want to hear
really
about
want to
that.
try out what you're talking about because it's like two solutions to the same problem, you know?
Yep.
I was after
Oh, yeah.
reducing that waste that you're talking
Yep.
about,
Yep.
and there's like two things that we've done. One of them is using realistic interactive
Yep.
mockups,
Yep.
which is easy to do with Figma now,
Yep.
but that even we started doing this 20 years ago, where I just
Yep.
used Visio and PowerPoint tricks Like,
Yep.
so I would like make realistic mockups and then
Yep.
have it take up the whole PowerPoint slide, so that if
Yes.
I'm presenting, it looks like it's an actual software application. But then I would put like transparent boxes over buttons and stuff like that, so that if I clicked it, it would go
Yes.
to the other PowerPoint
Yep.
slide I want.
Yep.
And it was really good at simulating what you would try to do with an MVP, but there's no software,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And what was great is that I remember some times where a customer would be like really into it and be like, "Oh, can you go back to that drop down? I want to see the other things in that drop down.
Yep.
Can you click on that other
Yep.
thing?" And I'm like, "No, these are just pictures, remember?" Oh
Yep.
yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot. But I think it was great that they were in it. It's like a movie, right? Of
Yep.
something real. And
Yep.
um, and so it allowed me to get very quick validation. And so
Yep.
there's a term that I use of accelerated customer validation, which I
Yes.
see that you're doing that, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I
That's
see it
exactly
written
right.
in books by Marty Kagan and also Teresa Torres, and
Yep.
and I call it accelerated customer validation.
Yep.
But um, but yeah, this is one of the techniques that we've been using for many years,
Oh,
and
that's
and
awesome. That's exactly right.
yeah.
That's exactly the right way to do it.
The other thing that we've done is since 2004, I started shaping our engineering hiring and talent
Yeah.
development to make sure that computer scientists that joined us understood that they had to become product engineers.
Yes.
There was not a path
Yep.
for just being a software person.
Yep.
And so they had to pick up product knowledge. They had to understand the problem space, the solution space, but
Nice.
they also had to understand the code base really well. And they had
Yep.
to create really good maintainable code so that everyone else could learn their code really well.
Yep. Yep.
And what that has led to is it's allowed us to be able to have something where one of the product engineers would be tapped to be on tap at a moment's notice to the
Yes.
product manager or the designer,
Yep. Yep.
and they could answer all the questions. They don't have to go
I
to the
love
other
it.
product engineers to
I
really
love
get the
it.
ground
So
truth.
they don't get distracted. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has allowed us to have such good productivity out of our
Wow.
engineers. And our engineers are happy too because
Yeah.
they want to be productive. So it's this funny
Yep.
thing that
Yep.
I see that engineers in the world have so many distractions that they're not productive.
Yep.
And the engineering management has all these tools to measure their productivity because they want to
Yep.
get them more productive. And what's ironic is that engineers want to be productive.
Yeah.
You just have to
Yep.
give them the
Absolutely.
environment and let them
Yep.
focus. Stop
Yep. Yep.
interrupting them.
That's gorgeous. And it's exactly what you're describing. It makes them happier, they're less tense, they're more willing to run with stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what I've also found is I really like how um, Marty Kagan has popularized the term. I think he heard it from somebody in 2001 about engineering missionaries rather than engineering mercenaries.
Mhm. Yes.
And
Yep.
that completely resonates with me because that's exactly
Yeah.
what I was after doing
Yep.
back in 2004. It's like because I realized that I was one of those engineering missionaries, and
Yep.
that's what made me much more valuable
Yep.
to my CEO. And I realized that all the computer scientists that I hired that had so much more CS knowledge than I did, it
Yep.
it didn't help them. And so I realized, oh my gosh, I have to create a team where everyone cares about the product.
Yep.
And um, and it's great because
Yep.
a lot of people become engineering missionaries as a result. You
Yep.
know,
Yep. This is great. I love this.
I'm trying to put together a new slide deck here on product team agility,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is I feel like that Agile and Scrum, are really missing the fact that we need agility upstream from them too. We need
Yes.
agility
Yes.
for the product manager, we need agility for the designer. And product team agility is basically, everybody from product manager all the way down to the tech teams.
Yes.
And I don't think this is a new concept. It's something that I think the product community has been trying to address, and they have all these different techniques of doing it. I think that Teresa Torres has her book is completely based off this, right?
Yeah.
How do
Yep.
you get agility at the level of product and design? And so she brings up, yeah, you need the product trio, and yeah, we've had this product trio concept, but I think that one of the things that is really missing that I'm trying to share on is that if you are able to reshape the engineering culture, and if you're able to get all your software engineers to get on a professional track to become product engineers,
Yep.
that's where you get, the full experience of product team agility.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that it's that innovation that when I did that, that it made it possible for me as a product manager to be able to span across multiple teams. This is what I've been able to practice for many years, where I'm leading multiple teams, but it's one product.
Yep.
And what I see in the industry is so much vertical slicing of a large
Yes.
product. Like all the
Yep.
big tech companies, they vertically seem to vertically slice their product in so many slices in order for the product manager to have just one team. So all these product managers, they're not
Yep.
really product manager over a product, they're product manager over a slice of a product.
Yep. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and to me, I didn't want that because like Steve Jobs, that
Yep.
iPod was amazing, but I don't think it was the result of a whole bunch of product managers that are independently doing stuff. It was Steve as the
Yep.
product manager that
Yeah.
shaped that whole thing and made sure that it's not only that it had all the great features, it
Yep.
had great performance. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Yep.
was like it was
Yep.
quick.
Yep.
And to get that, you need an architecture where everything works together in order to
Yep.
get you those quality attributes that you want, the performance,
Yep.
the
Yep.
all the abilities and the security. And I think that that's one thing that's really missing from the product world. And I'm not sure that the big tech companies even have this on their radar.
I don't think so. I think they naturally assume that you should have it all sliced up. I mean, that's just the dominant picture that I've seen. I sometimes see companies differentiating between technical versus business product management, or sometimes it'll be product owners versus product line managers. So in your chart, what they'd have is there'd be a product manager on the left, right where
Mhm.
you've got it in the
Yeah,
red, but then they'd have junior PMs who'd be associated with each of those, and sometimes they'll even call them product owners. Like they're the person who's supposed to be the decision maker in the agile work being done by that sub team.
right.
And that's kind of the way they would do it. They've divided the product management role into two, and the senior one is supposed to be providing the mental integration across those slices
Mhm.
so that they still remain a product.
What you're talking about is
Kind of like
more
that. Okay.
like this.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I made this slide because I was entering into a consulting job. We have
Nice.
45 teams, 45 development teams on one thing,
Man.
and it's like the total number of people, including all the overhead people like these on
Yeah.
like something like 410. It's like incredible, and of course things aren't getting done, and
Yeah.
and so I made this really to kind of show them, all right, here's an agility spectrum, you're way on the on the low end,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
and then it'd be better if you did this, it's better if you did this, better if you did this,
Yep.
there's different companies
Nice.
that, and so
Yep.
I'm like trying to tell them, like, the more that you can do some of these practices,
Yep.
tweak that, you'll see things speed up. But I say,
Yep.
look at how much less, levels of management and
Yeah.
coordination there is versus
Yep.
what you're
Yes.
doing.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think that that's just something that um, people have just never thought about. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been interviewing product managers, and I think so far 43 in the last year.
Oh
And
wow.
what I've found is that I can't find a single one that likes this model of slicing things horizontally, right?
Yep.
Where it's like, all right, they have to talk with the product owner who then, is the interface to the team.
Yep.
And it's because the amount of work to deal with these product owners to really get them up to
Yep.
speed and make sure that they're aligned with the product manager, it's just as
Yep.
much work as it would be to do it directly to the teams. I don't think it
Yeah.
really
Got it.
helps
Yep.
unless you don't really care about the
Interesting.
product, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you got 70% of what I wanted, and all right,
Yep.
that's good enough.
Yep.
But if you really, really care about making great
Yeah.
products, this is
Yep.
frustrating. And
That's fascinating.
and so that's what I find is that the ones that are
Yep.
like that, they don't like it.
Yep.
Um, and
That's very
I
cool.
think that most teams, what I hear in Silicon Valley is they're kind of like this, where
Yeah.
there's tech leads of each team, and maybe the most senior one is being pulled back and forth, similar to what I have as the flex engineer.
Yep.
But it's not the same thing because in our model, I wanted the um, the ability for this person here to be available at a moment's notice, and then I
Yes.
can ask that
Yep.
one person about even
Yep.
details on any of the other teams.
Yep.
Hey, what's
Yep.
what's this engineer on this team, the front end engineer on the booking team? What
Yep.
what are they doing? Are the,
Yep.
is that going forward the way that I wanted according to our design? And not for it to be like, well, I'll come back after a long time
Yeah.
and after I
Yeah.
talk with them.
Yep.
And so this has been able to happen for us because these people have as a big part of their job, you have to be up to speed on the code base. You have to be
Yep.
up to speed on where the technical debt is, and
Yeah.
you have to be able to give me estimates within seconds or minutes in most
Yep.
cases.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
in
Because
something
you need
hard,
that
all right,
speed
go
on
ahead,
that.
pick a
Yeah.
date, let's meet tomorrow, but not
Yep.
let's meet many days from now after you've
Yep.
talked with a whole bunch of people, and then
Yep.
you have secondhand information, so I can't really
Got it.
even judge what you're saying. And
Yep.
I think that people are used to that in dealing with tech leads that are siloed, right? There's
Yes.
all these
Yes.
silos,
Yep.
and that brings
Yep.
so much risk. So
Yeah.
you can't trust the estimates, and so I can't have a lot of velocity in my discovery
Yeah.
efforts.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's been huge for our discovery speed to be able to have pretty accurate estimates within seconds or minutes. And
That's
that's
beautiful.
really what
Yep.
um, uh, we've been after.
So you've got high speed on the left,
Hmm.
right? You're able to do mockups really fast thanks to Figma.
Hmm.
You can expose them to customers really fast. Then, in order to do the fast business thinking that goes with that, oh, we just learned something about the customers. This is really important. Gee, could we build that? Yes or no. Or here's what would be involved. Here's where things would be. So your product trio is able to do very rapid thought experiments
Yes,
in response to things they're learning about customers to be able to know, can we go after this or not, and what would it involve, so they can make informed decisions about where they want to go.
exactly.
Just that, like that.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. Because any idea, if you think this is a great idea, but then you find that the
Yeah.
cost is exorbitant, it's not a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
discard it.
Yep.
You have to know the cost to know if an idea
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, or you could say, hey, we could do it cheaply this way. Would that work for the customers? And then you need that feedback from the left side of the chart of, oh, let's go check really quick and
right.
give you an answer. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've done that many times.
Nice.
And Yeah, so in this, what I'm showing is that on the individual teams, in this case, there's like three teams.
Yep.
Um, the tech lead and the flex engineer at this level are the same person, because
Yes.
that has been very often the case here. But in
Yep.
some cases, it's not. In some
Yep.
cases, the tech lead is not the
Somebody
flex
else.
engineer that's on tap to always talk with this person.
Yep.
So in this
Yep.
case, these flex engineers here are on tap at seconds notice when this person calls them up.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
so there's really really rapid information about the realities of
Yeah.
the code or engineering effort,
Yep.
because that's
Yep.
where all the answers really are, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that the distance between people that are figuring out the business side and the strategy,
Yep. Yep.
um, versus the reality of what's true in the code, that
Mhm.
gap was way way too big, and that's why
Yeah.
I created these kinds of practices and career paths
Yep.
to
Yep.
solve that
I love it.
problem. It's been a
It's
huge
you're
competitive advantage for us.
I bet. I mean, that's neat that you've not only figured it out, but you're able to test it in the marketplace. This is iterating without shipping.
Hmm.
This is really, really cool.
Yeah, this product team agility here is this concept is something that needs to be popularized so that people start thinking outside of the Agile Scrum box.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yep.
it's like I've talked with so many CEOs and founders, like about 50 of them in the last 18 months, and it's like they're all like done with Agile and Scrum. It's like they have a distaste in their mouth
Yep.
because they're like, I was lied to. We are not experiencing agility. Of course you're not, because you got all these bottlenecks with all these people up here, right?
Yep.
It's all like more
Yep.
waterfall, because like that's why I'm showing like one-way arrows, because this
Yep.
is what really
Yep.
happens. You only
Yeah.
have like
Yep.
this iterative thing at the tech team level, and it's
Yep.
like completely pointless. What user testing's been doing and what we've been
Yeah.
doing is like we're focused on the same problem.
Yep.
It's just
Yep. Yep.
completely different aspects of, oh, we can tweak this.
Yeah. Yeah. This is beautiful. Well, and I think they're not contradictory to each other. They're actually complementary.
Exactly.
These things together make it really, really sing because I haven't looked at the organizational side of, okay, how would you act on this? And exactly the stuff you're working through.
Hmm.
That's gorgeous. I love this.
Yeah.